You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marcagiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hey guys, it's Dr. J here in the house with Evan Brand. Evan, fabulous little Monday here in Austin, Texas. How you doing?
Happy Monday. I'm jealous. I was looking at the U.S. current temperature map. You're in like the 70s and it's like freaking snowing here again. We just had like 80 degrees on Friday and now it's 35 and snowing today.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, we had a great weekend here. I have my brother and family in town here, and we were on Lake Austin Friday and Saturday, so we got some great exercise in, and it's a great Monday, man. Looking forward to dropping some good knowledge bombs today.
Yeah, me too. I did some squats this morning, and I can feel it. My legs feel like Jell-O, so if I fall down during this, that's why.
Totally. Makes sense. Cool, dude. So in general, man, I know we chatted about blood sugar and some fasting stuff. We wanted to talk today about blood sugar, and we kind of wanted to connect it to a lot of the gut issues that we see with our patients.
Yeah.
You ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll first share my story, and then we'll get into maybe the mechanism. When I had H. pylori and bacterial overgrowth and candida problems, my blood sugar was not good. If I went longer than 2 or maybe 2.5 hours, I would start to get a little bit anxiety, kind of shaky, kind of stressed, maybe a little bit irritable, kind of moody. Mm-hmm. That's not normal. And it wasn't until I fixed my gut that my blood sugar stabilized. And then now I could basically skip breakfast if I wanted to. I don't. But if I did skip breakfast, I could pretty much work all day from like 7 a.m. till 2 p.m. with no food and feel perfectly stable. And that is unusual for me because I had the blood sugar issue for so many years, probably because I had infections for so many years.
Yeah, as your adrenals get stronger, they can definitely stabilize blood sugar better, right? Because as your blood sugar drops, your body produces adrenaline and cortisol to raise it. So the more stable your adrenals are, they have that little bit of extra strength to bring that blood sugar back up. Of course, the more keto adapted you are, you're not going to have high and low peaks of blood sugar, meaning the faster your blood sugar goes up, the faster your pancreas produces insulin, the faster your blood sugar drops, the faster your adrenals produce adrenaline and cortisol to bring it back up. So there's this like ebb and flow. So the smoother your blood sugar goes up, the smoother it falls, the less your pancreas and your adrenals are called upon to buffer that out. So the more keto adapted, the more you're burning fat for fuel, the more metabolic logs that we're putting on the fire. Think of logs as like proteins and fats. That's kind of our metabolic log. And then we have our spectrum of carbohydrates, non-starchy vegetables, low sugar fruits, higher sugar fruits, higher starchy foods, grains, refined sugar, alcohol, right? There's a spectrum, lower to higher. And of course, think of carbohydrates as kindling. We have like twigs over here to the more refined carbohydrates in the middle, which are more like paper, and then to the end, which we consider gasoline. So, if we just started a fire with paper and gasoline, that fire goes up and out. If you start a fire with some logs, proteins and fats, and then you get a little bit of kindling in there, then you're a pretty good match to keep that fire burning long and strong.
Yep. Love that analogy. I was doing pretty good on the fat content. I think it was just the gut was disturbing the blood sugar and adrenals so much that even a perfect diet couldn't have fixed it. And this is what we see too with our clients. I just had a woman before I got on the call with you who she has H. pylori. We looked at her stool test. She's got a couple of parasites, many species of bacteria, overgrowth. Her candida's off the charts. Like I told you before we got on here, she's literally eating 8 times a day. And I said, is that like a snack? She goes, no, I'm eating like steak and veggies or chicken and veggies, like 8 times a day. She's eating almost a full meal. I said, would an average person think that was a snack size, or would they think it was a meal? And they would say they think it's a meal. So I told her, first of all, my Lord, that's a lot of food. You're probably not detoxing well if you're just focused on digestion all day. And with all the infections, if she goes longer than an hour or two, she's having anxiety and panic attacks. So I did give her some supplemental, like the pharma GABA, so that she can kind of chew on those, and gave her some basic adrenal support. But I told her my suspicion is that once we resolve the infection, she should be able to go longer without eating.
Yeah, I would say with a lot of people that have blood sugar issues like that, there's a combination of a couple things. So number one, there's typically a lot of gut inflammation, and inflammation then creates a response of cortisol. Think of cortisol as your natural water to put out the fire. Inflammation's the fire, that makes sense. And then cortisol is the water to put out the fire. So if you're constantly having a fire going, that cortisol is constantly being pushed to put out the fire. But cortisol also is going to have an effect on your blood sugar too. That's why when you get stressed and you do a blood sugar test, got my little blood sugar meter over here in the corner of my desk. But if you tested your blood sugar, you would see it on the higher side when you get stressed.
How much can it fluctuate? Like if, let's say during the day, what would you say your kind of resting glucose would be? Maybe like now, would you say it'd be in like the 70s or 80s?
I mean, I would say between 80 and 100, but it would depend, when my meal was. But if I ate like an hour ago, my goal would be to be under 120, closer to 100. I mean, my goal is typically, 140 an hour after an hour, 120 after 2 hours, and then back below 100 after 3. The more insulin sensitive you are, you may be able to get that below 100 within 2 hours. But it depends too, because if you're doing a lot of stuff and you're active, it may be okay to have a little bit higher blood sugar because you're utilizing that fuel. It's not like sitting in your bloodstream and being dumped into your muscles to go to glycogen, or dumped into your liver to run de novo genesis and make fat out of it. It's there as a fuel source, and your body's tapping into it. The concern is that when your blood sugars, you're not doing much, you're not in much physical perceived stress, and that blood sugar is chronically high, because then the body has to then go into storage allocation versus burning allocation.
Okay, so when do you get concerned about a blood sugar level?
Well, I mean, I would say that if someone is testing their fasting blood sugar and it's chronically above 100, not just in the morning. Now, the morning is important because the morning is when your cortisol goes the highest, right? Your cortisol rhythm is like this. It starts here at waking, it pops up within the first 30 minutes, and then goes down during the day. So some people may have higher blood sugar in the morning because of that cortisol spike. And that's okay. That's normal. The question is, how does it look during the day as that cortisol drops? So those are the big questions that I always have. So all patients do a functional glucose tolerance where they test their fasting, 1, 2, and 3 hour blood sugar, at different intervals during the day, so we can get a window of how that blood sugar fluctuates. So inflammation is going to have a major effect on your blood sugar. Emotional stress will have a major effect on your blood sugar. And a big vector for inflammation is going to be gut issues. Issues. And
I forgot to mention too, you're right, her calprotectin, her intestinal inflammation marker, it was pretty darn high. It was at, I believe it was at 96, and anything above 50 is flagged high on the test that you and I use.
That's big, yeah. That's big.
She was pretty inflamed, and the emotional stress piece was a factor too. She had just recently gone through a divorce. She's got 3 kids that she's trying to keep up with. So that's a big deal. And I think the case studies like this are important to share, because the data can only take you so far. But when you hear a story like that, it's like, oh my God, this makes sense. And this lady, she's been burning the candle at both ends, going through a divorce for however many years. It's been a year in the making, with 3 kids in the middle of it. That's stress.
Totally. So the other big thing is, if the gut's chronically inflamed, that's creating stress. But if the gut's also inflamed, there may be a bottleneck in how this patient's able to digest and get these nutrients into her bloodstream and have a stabilizing effect. So the big thing I would say with this patient is, we have to make sure, especially if the inflammation's that high and she's really having a hard time, I would make her do a lot of these foods in a crock pot kind of soup type of manner where nothing's raw, everything's either blended or, pre-digested with the cooking process to make it very easy for the gut to absorb. I would probably be also adding a lot of supplemental free form amino acids that are already broken down, so she can just absorb these right into her bloodstream, because 50% of the energy by the protein that you eat goes into the digestive process. So it's like, imagine I gave you $1. For every dollar I give you, for you to be able to use it, you really only get 50 cents back. So that's kind of what happens with how your body utilizes protein. So if we give you free form amino acid, it's already broken down. So if I give you $1, then you actually have $1 to spend. But the big thing is you don't go through the stress of having to process it. So adding in free form amino acids can be helpful. And of course, getting the hydrochloric acid and the enzymes dialed in. Now, some people, we try to increase the calories, which, when we talk about calories, we're talking about calories from whole foods. So that means nutrients, right? We just use the term calorie because it's easier to count, right? We're kind of in this, a lot of the technology that's out there, right? Whether it's Chronometer or MyFitnessPal or Lose It, a lot of these things are calorie driven. We like Chronometer because it gives us the ability to count the micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, etc. So we can make sure the nutrient density is up. We try to increase the amount they eat so they can last 4 or 5 hours. That's ideal. Some patients, we may not be able to get enough food in there so they can last that long. They may say, I am so bloated, I am so stuffed, but then they only can last 2 to 3 hours. That's the issue. If they can only last 2 to 3 hours, but they eat to the point where they feel so satiated and they can't do any more, that's where I recommend more frequent eating at the 2 to 3 hour level. I like to get closer to 5 because I want my patients to have a little bit of ketosis happening where they're tapping into more of the fat. Because every time you eat, for the most part, it's going to be your body's going to be spitting out a little bit of insulin. So if we can keep the insulin down a bit, that helps with a lot of insulin resistance. And a lot of people can get insulin resistant primarily from the excess carbohydrates, but cortisol can also push that because cortisol can mobilize extra sugar in your bloodstream that can create that same kind of insulin resistant mechanism that the excess carbs will do as well.
Yeah, and people hear that and they're like, okay, well, how does that apply to me? And the answer is, well, if you have weight issues, you could be eating a good diet, but if you have a cortisol problem, you could have weight issues, even though you're eating like a paleo template. You're eating real food, meats and veggies. We see it every day where people may have 20, 30, 40 pounds excess weight. If you fix that cortisol issue, all of a sudden people just start dropping weight. And I always say it's a side effect of getting healthy, which is the best part.
Exactly. And, just to kind of toot our own horns a bit here, the reason why I think our show is so important is because we're talking about real life patient experience. A lot of people talk about theoretical, philosophical, functional medicine or nutritional concepts. We're bringing you the live stuff. So anyone listening, if this applies to you, try to use it, try to utilize it for yourself, see if it fits. And if you need more customization or support, make sure you reach out to Evan or I by clicking any of our information below in the description section.
Yeah, so I want to comment on something else you said too, which was about the people who get so bloated after a meal. And those people, you don't want to depend on just a stool test. You may have to get that organic acids. And if you've already had organic acids, but it's several months old, you may need to get retested because you could just have a massive yeast problem. And if you throw in kombucha or something into the gut and all of a sudden you're bloated and you're like, hey, I don't have parasites. Okay, cool, but it may be something else. That was my issue, man. I would get super bloated, and it was because I had a candida overgrowth.
Yeah, what happens is the digestive system is so stressed that you can't even get enough nutrition in your gut so that food stabilizes you for 2 to 3 hours because you feel so bloated or so nauseous or so just digestively incapacitated. And that's where you really have to focus on the gut, and you have to make the meal smaller, and you really have to utilize tools like a crock pot or an Instapot or more bone broth or more liquefied nutrition to make it easier on your digestive system. And other strategies are just chewing your food up well enough, making sure you're not eating when you're stressed. Of course, utilizing digestive enzymes and hydrochloric acid to break that food down. The chewing process increases the surface area and allows the hydrochloric acid and the enzymes to work better. So if you're only chewing your food like 15 or 20 times, try to double the amount of chews. Typically 1 chew per tooth, 32 teeth. That's a pretty good rule of thumb that will help your digestive system to work better, give more surface area for the enzymes and the hydrochloric acid to work.
I'll tell you, nobody's doing that. People are like, oh my God, 32 chews. I'm doing 3 and then I swallow. Like especially if somebody goes to like Chipotle or somewhere where the food is just so soft and mushy, you just shove that mush down and you don't even chew it. So yeah, that's a big problem.
I mean, like today, I had some really good collagen peptides, like 20 grams with some grass-fed butter and some MCT oil. And then after, I'm having right here a nice organic green drink.
That's a good one. I love that one.
It's a good one, and it's cold press.
How much sugar is in that one?
Not much at all. I mean, it's got 9 grams, but that's the lowest you can have with a vegetable drink. I mean, listen to the ingredients, right? Cucumber, kale, broccoli, and basil. There's not anything that's higher sugar, and there's not anything that's fruit-based, right?
Some of those are like 40 grams. Some of those sujas, they get crazy with the apple juice.
The suja, yeah. I mean, you can get really screwy because they'll have like, oh, it's a vegetable juice, but then it has a carrot in there. Remember, a cup of carrot juice has more sugar than a Coca-Cola.
That's hard to believe. I know you told me that, but it's like, what? That's crazy.
And again, there's some good nutrients in there, but sugar is sugar, and your liver still has to do what it has to do. And if it's insulin resistance, all these JNKY enzymes that are really inflammatory get upregulated in the liver to process it all. So you're much better off getting the phytonutrients from something like this. And this is really easy on my gut, right? So I had amino acids, some fat, I had some MCT oil, and I had this. So it's just a really easy kind of digestive breakfast, ton of phytonutrients, 7 servings of veggies, easy peasy, right?
Yep. I have an idea of where I'd like to take the conversation, unless you'd like to go somewhere else. And it would be to talk about some of the foundational supplements you could use while you're working through some of this. So we won't get too much into like the gut protocol stuff, because that is so different depending on whether it's just parasites, whether it's parasites plus yeast, whether it's bacteria plus parasites plus yeast plus fungus plus blah, blah, blah. That gets crazy. So maybe we can just chat about kind of our favorites in terms of basic adrenal support and things that could also help stabilize blood sugar to get somebody through this.
Well, I think the first thing is let's start with food, right?
Okay.
Let's make the nutrition that we're eating easy to process and easy to digest. So you can do like a smoothie option with good fats and proteins blended up. You can do a crock pot kind of meal. You can do maybe the butter MCT collagen coffee, and then you can get some of your micronutrients through a green drink to make it easier on your digestive system. Of course, maximizing hydrochloric acid and enzymes and or bile salts, especially if your stools are floating. You can definitely utilize a lot of the free form amino acids. And then if your gut's on fire, we have a lot of formulas that are gut soothing, like my GI Restore, a lot of the healing, soothing nutrients to help that gut lining heal. So those are a couple of really good options to start. Again, we always start with the foundation. You want to build this awesome fancy hotel, you got to start with the floor 1. Most people want to go to like, well, what's that floor 10? What's this cool little thing there? Start at the bottom and then build up to the top.
Yeah, make sure you're addressing your emotional stress too. It's like all the magic pills we give you for your gut can't counteract you going through the middle of a divorce. So like sometimes you just have to make sure that you're getting a counseling session. And, we kind of are counselors in a way, but at a certain point, we can't go too deep. We'll give you recommendations like your emotional freedom technique, the tapping, which we love. That stuff is good too. So you want to try to make sure you empty the stress bucket. You do your lifestyle stuff too, like your Epsom salt baths, schedule a massage. Maybe you take a Friday off so you can have a 3-day weekend. Go out like Justin and go play out in the water. Like that stuff is all good too. And that stuff is just priceless. And then my recommendations I'd like to mention would be Shijandra berry. I've been feeling really good. So what I've been doing, I've been taking my vitamin C tonic powder, which is a teaspoon a day, 2,500 milligrams vitamin C, and I mix it with the Soothe tincture, which is the one with the ashwagandha, the reishi, the motherwort, the ziziphus, the albizia, the one I tell you about, which I love. And I'm growing some, man. So I just got some. They're called jujubes. It's actually called Chinese dates. But that's where they get ziziphus from. So it's the seed that comes in the middle of the Chinese date. That's what they extract for the ziziphus.
Jujube. Oh, there was someone talking about this recently. I had a patient talking to me about the jujube. There's someone in the podcast realm that's really up on it now.
Ah, okay. So the jujube seed, that's where you get it. And I've got 2 trees out in the yard that I just...
Oh, I know who it was. It was Jimmy Moore and Dr. Will Cole. They were talking about this recently.
They were talking about jujube?
Yeah, jujube, yeah.
Oh, really? I like the term ziziphus better. Sounds cooler.
Ziziphus sounds awesome, man.
And that's technically what they're using. They're not using jujube. They're using the ziziphus seed. But ziziphus is the Latin for it. Anyhow, So,
But just I want to dovetail what
Yeah.
you're saying. So simple things you can do, right? EFT stuff, right? Really simple, like 3 minutes. Just go through. Just think about whatever the problem is. Just go through and tap all the points.
do you do affirmations or you just think about the problem? Because I like the affirmations.
Both. I think it depends, right? Like if you're in a really negative place, it's hard to go positive and ignore what's the emotion that's happening. So I try to calm the negative down. And then once that's down below like a 3 out of 10, right? 10 out of 10 is the worst. 1's nothing, 3, then I can go into that positive place. But I try to get it down first, and then I can go affirmation. Number 2 is you can do the Mwave, the new one for the mobile phone.
Yeah, how does it work?
It basically, you just synchronize your breathing and you focus on your heart and gratitude while you synchronize the breathing, and then you go into a place of coherence where the heart and brain are more in sync, so to speak. And that's
I feel
helpful.
good. I don't have the mobile one. I've got the little
I have both.
pocket one. It's got way too much blue light though. It blasts you in the face. I need a little filter over it or something.
I think the mobile one's better personally.
Yeah.
And it's easier to bring with you. You just have this and your phone's already, because I would bring it with me and it'd always be dead. And I'm like, oh, shoot. So one more thing to charge. So as long as my phone's good, then that's good. So I like that. You can do 3 to 5 minutes twice a day. You can just download the Calm meditation app and you can do a 5-minute, even a 3-minute meditation twice a day is helpful. Just a couple little things, like just something that's not going to take a big chunk out of your day up that you can justify doing. So figure out which strategy is best for you and just try one. Even if you do it once for 3 to 5 minutes a day, it's a good starting point to put you in parasympathetics. And the other one is just a good walking meditation. Like if you do a walking meditation, 3 to 5 minutes on appreciation and gratitude, and then 3 to 5 minutes on visualizing kind of what it is you want to create or manifest. Because appreciation, you go backwards and you think and you appreciate, and then the visualization's kind of moving forward. So I think that's a really good way to do it. And then like I get this one from Tony Robbins. It's a breathing in, and then 4 out. And then what he does is when he breathes, he taps on the acupuncture points on the fingers. So it's like in, tap, in, tap, in, tap, in, tap, and then out, back.
Oh, as you're breathing, you're saying?
3, 4. So it's so you're tapping on these acupuncture points, which are basically EFT points, and you're doing that while you're breathing. So you're kind of having an EFT session on your fingers while you're breathing and walking, and then you do a kind of a gratitude.
How many reps is he doing? Does he say specifically or just whatever?
It's just basically, it's about a time thing. So he does a 5 to 15 minutes. So technically it's like gratitude for 5, visualization for 5, and then affirmations for 5.
And that's all while walking?
Wait, yeah, you can do it by, I like the movement. He does some kind of a movement with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's 5 visual and 5 appreciation, 5 visualization, 5 affirmation. And you can cut it down to 3, 3, and 3. If you need to do it in 10 minutes, and then the affirmations are just affirming what it is you want to create and manifest. Like every day in every way, I'm getting healthier and healthier. Every day in every way, I'm getting happier and happier. Whatever that is, you're just affirming it. But these are some really good tools, and it changes your physiology. And you'll see it. If you're testing your heart rate variability, you will see it. And then another simple thing, ready? This is something everyone can do no matter what. If you're a programmer, if you're a teacher, wherever you're at, just focus on nose breathing. No breathing from the mouth at all. The parasympathetic olfactory nerves tie into the vagus nerve, which is the part of the parasympathetics, and that really helps relax you. So deep nasal breathing. You can do it when you're having a conversation, when it's your turn to listen. You can do it when you're watching TV. You can do it when you're typing something up or doing some research, whatever you're doing, just that good, deep nasal breathing.
I was doing that just now. I feel so much more relaxed. I think it was because I focused on it. I feel good. Like I just calmed down like a notch or two.
So like my thing is, what's the low hanging fruit? So if anyone's like, oh my God, I'm so busy, I don't have time for anything. Great. You have time to breathe, right? Obviously. So breathe through your freaking nose, right? Breathe through your nose. Number 2, if you have 3 to 5 minutes, I would just say if you have a lot of emotional stress or baggage that's bugging you, where you just feel bogged down with whatever that stress is, I think EFT is great, because it's really hard doing a meditation when you got a whole bunch of crap coming through. So I'd rather just like lower the emotional stress of whatever that trauma is coming in, whatever that is, you get that down. Because once your brain's a little bit quieter, then you can engage in meditation. Because I find meditation, it's hard to enjoy it if your brain's going crazy thinking about stuff. So I much rather quiet the brain by doing some tapping. And then once you've kind of tapped out, so to speak, you can go and do a meditation or visualization.
I would recommend scheduling something too, whether it's paying somebody to do an at-home massage or going to get a massage. Or
massage is a game changer.
I'm a huge fan of float tanks too, because there's something you just can't get by meditating or taking an Epsom salt bath, like a physical touch from another human. I mean, we're in a touch deficient society due to technology. And I thought that was interesting too. I had Jason Prawl on my podcast. He just did this whole human longevity project about him traveling the world. And he said, man, Americans are so weird when it comes to touch. He was like over in Greece and Italy and Spain and all sorts of other places, Costa Rica. He goes, man, everybody hugs and kisses like it's nothing. He said they were at a restaurant. It was like an Italian restaurant. And all these complete strangers were interlocking their arms together and dancing and singing and just having so much fun. It's like you would never lock arms with a random stranger and dance with them in America. That would be frowned upon and made fun of. So I think our touch deficient culture requires more things like a massage, which you got to pay for.
I do think a massage is phenomenal. I just went and took my family out for massages yesterday. It was phenomenal. I get massages one time a week. I get a full body kind of foot massage as well as a myofascial release in the upper body. And I think it's essential.
Have you visited other places? Have you seen what I'm talking about? This whole cultural issue where people are freaked out to touch a stranger or hug people and kiss people?
Yeah, I definitely think that's part of, I think, our culture. I think it depends too. I think different ethnicities, like, an Italian culture, I was brought up and everyone was kind of hugging and this and that was kind of part of it. So I think it just depends, within whatever culture you're within, that can definitely shift for sure. And I think it's good to have that. I think it's great to have it. But if it's something you don't feel comfortable with, I mean, obviously you should feel comfortable with that in your family. I think that's great. But maybe a stranger, maybe someone you're not close with, you can use massage as a great way, especially like a foot massage, because the somatosensory cortex has lots of receptor sites on the feet. And that really gets the parasympathetic stimulated, which really gets you into that rest and digest mode. So a good foot massage is amazing on the nervous system. My brother, I took him and his wife for a massage yesterday, and he got a foot massage, and he's like, oh my God, I feel invigorated after that massage. I'm like, yeah, it's really getting that parasympathetic branch of the nervous system dialed in.
Isn't that crazy? It wasn't even a full body. You could just do the feet. I don't know if your little baby, is he starting to teeth? Is he getting teeth in?
Yeah, he's doing great. We're using a homeopathic called Camellia.
Yeah, we were using that one too.
Phenomenal.
Well, here's something crazy. So, Summer, my daughter, she doesn't have the molars coming in yet, but her fourth canine is starting to come in, and we've been using the homeopathics, and it's worked somewhat. And then I came across this literature that was talking about like acupressure points on feet, and supposedly the tips of the toes are the places where the canines or the molars can be kind of desensitized. And so basically she was really fussy, and I started just massaging her toes, especially the tips of her toes, and she calmed down. I was blown away. So, I mean, maybe it's random placebo or maybe there's something to that, but I tell you, man, it worked in like 30 seconds of me rubbing her feet.
Oh, I think that's great. I always give my son like a tummy massage. If you're looking at his tummy, it's a clockwise massage. So I start here at the, like, for instance, this would be like the descending colon, and this would be like the ascending colon going up. And it's just here. And obviously there's like a nice like moisturizer on his tummy, and it's just like this. And I use that thumb to kind of pull everything right down the sigmoid colon. So it's like this, cool. And then right down. So I just use my thumbs, and that helps. That really helps with bowel regularity, because their nervous systems aren't quite as dialed in, hence why they're wearing diapers, right? So that kind of just helps give the bowel just a nice gentle assist.
Yep, that's cool. So maybe that advice will help you when he starts getting those canine teeth in. It's brutal.
The tips of the toes. That's good. And any of the toes, or just like the big toe?
The big toe worked the best. Yeah. And she got kind of ticklish with the other ones, but the big toe worked the best.
And right at the tip?
Right at the tip of it. Yeah, I just kind of rubbed it like I had like a piece of sand between my fingers, just kind of rubbed it like this. And I swear, I'm not joking, she went from maybe like a 7 out of 10 on like the crazy I'm crying this hurts scale to maybe like a 3 or a 4. Like she was still a little fussy, and you could tell because the gums are really swollen, but she was not complaining as much. So there you go, people. Go get a foot massage. Go do a float tank. Now, let me mention my shake, or my little tonic, rather.
Yeah.
So it's the vitamin C powder, so about 2,500 milligrams. And then I do 2 shots of the Soothe, which is the ashwagandha, reishi, motherwort, ziziphus, albizia. And then I do 2 squirts of Herb Farms Shajandra. So we don't have our Shajandra, so that's one case where I don't use your brand or my brand. They do have a professional line for practitioners that we use, and I do 2 squirts of that Shajandra. And that addition to the Soothe, I didn't think it would make a difference, but it did. I feel really stable, really solid blood sugar-wise. If I have a late lunch, I have no issues.
That's awesome, man. Really cool. Very
so
good.
I hope that helps people. So you mentioned your GI Restore product, so like kind of your leaky gut support.
Yeah.
You've got a couple probiotics. I've got some probiotics. We carry several strains. Those could help modulate the inflammation a bit. Maybe just buy it and try it, but maybe work with a practitioner too, because we have seen some cases where if you have a bacterial overgrowth or something, the probiotics can kind of, I don't know if I'd say stoke the fire, but for lack of a better term, I've had some cases where I don't do probiotics till the post-infection plan, and it works a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I see probiotics being good on step 5 where you're repopulating, right?
Yeah.
But step 3 in the inflammation phase, probiotics can be very anti-inflammatory. It depends how much gut issues or how FODMAP sensitive or how much SIBO's there. Sometimes probiotics can cause more gas and bloating. So definitely got to work with a practitioner on that to make sure it's individualized.
Right. And you could try and maybe throw stuff at it, but I don't want you guys to build up a supplement graveyard because you're trying to listen to random things and piece it together. Like Justin uses a great analogy of like going up Mount Everest. It's better to go up Mount Everest with a Sherpa who's done it 1,000 times. Same thing with Justin and same thing with me, rather than just free balling it, because you're going to spend
nice.
You're going to spend more money. You just do. You spend more money in the long run. Like, how many clients do you talk with every week who say, Justin, I worked with so-and-so practitioner and they had me on 50 supplements and none of them worked because they didn't base it on labs like we do. They just freaking guessed.
Yeah, and also when you make recommendations for supplements, you want to make sure it's connected to a system as well.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're supporting an underlying system, not just the symptom. Because if you're playing the symptom game with supplements, it's really easy to kind of whack-a-mole. But if you're tracing it up to the underlying systems, and you're also made underlying changes to these stressors, physical, chemical, and emotional, you're going to be in a much better place, more holistic too, right?
Yeah. Well, I would like to add another comment to that too, which is we see that a lot with naturopathic medicine and naturopathic practitioners versus functional medicine. I think there's the distinction there, because a lot of naturopaths, they may say, okay, we're not going to use aspirin for the inflammation. We're going to use turmeric, and that's it. But they don't get
bark.
Or white willow, but they don't get to the root cause of, okay, well, why is the inflammation there in the first place? Let's run labs, figure out the source. So here you are taking high dose fish oil, you're taking turmeric, you're doing white willow bark or whatever, and you feel better, but you didn't address the root cause. So you get off the turmeric and the fish oil, you still feel like crap, your joints hurt, you're fatigued, your sleep sucks, and you don't know why. It's because you had infections, but you never went that deeper level. So I always tell people, get to the root cause of the root cause, meaning, okay, if there's inflammation, if there's blood sugar issues, if there's sleep issues, why?
100%.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And then ask why again. And if you keep asking why, you should eventually get to the answers.
I like it. Makes a lot of sense to me. Let's hit a couple other blood sugar questions. When people talk about being more insulin sensitive, that means you need less insulin to fit into the receptor site to pull that glucose into the cell to utilize it for fuel or store it as fat. One of the two, right? Glucose is either going to be stored or burned. So the more metabolically active you are, the more of an ectomorph you are, the more insulin sensitive, the more muscles you have, the more you'll burn it, the more insulin resistant, meaning the more insulin you need to make that receptor site happy to pull that glucose in. Typically, the less active you are, the more fat cells you have, so the more your body will store that and not burn it. Not good, because fat cells produce a significant amount of interleukin, which are inflammatory compounds. So by the more fat you have, you're actually making yourself more inflamed.
Whoa, I think you need to slow down and say that one more time, because that's going to blow people's mind.
So regarding insulin, we want to be insulin sensitive. Insulin sensitive means insulin receptor site. Insulin goes in, that allows the door to open so glucose can go into the cell. Once it's in the cell, it's either going to be stored or burned. Okay. So the more insulin sensitive you are, you're tending to burn that glucose for fuel. because there's less of it there, number one, and you're going to be more keto adapted. So you'll be burning more fat for fuel over glucose. You have less glucose coming into the cell. So it's either going to be stored in the muscle for exercise or movement. It's going to be a small amount will be used by the brain, 20 grams a day, and the rest can be stored as glycogen in the liver. So as long as we don't go above what our body can store, then it's all going to be as glycogen, or it'll be burnt up in the moment for fuel during an exercise or a movement pattern. Okay. The more insulin resistant we are, those storage sites are going to be full. It's going to be like you trying to use a sponge to sop up a mess on the table, but the sponge was never wrung out. So the more active you are and the more insulin sensitive you are, it's like wringing out that sponge. Now that sponge is more absorbent, because we know that if you don't have the sponge wrung out, you're just pushing around the glucose and you're essentially pushing it into the fat cells metabolically in this analogy. So the more insulin sensitive, the more we burn fat for fuel, the more any glucose that comes in, we have storage sites to put it in, liver glycogen, muscle glycogen, or using it for fuel. The more insulin resistant, the more it gets burnt or stored as fat versus allocated for burning.
Got it.
You are primarily a sugar burner when you are insulin resistant, because the more insulin that's in your blood, the enzymes shift to more storing enzymes than burning enzymes. So instead of having lipolytic enzymes being produced, lipo meaning fat, lytic meaning breaking down or to cut. So the more lipolytic means you're breaking down fat when insulin is low. The more lipogenic enzymes are produced when there's lots of insulin. Lipo meaning fat, genic meaning store or forming. So lipogenic enzymes go high when insulin's high. The more insulin sensitive you are, the more lipolytic enzymes are produced, the more you're burning fat for fuel. Does that make sense?
It does. And I was going to take it a step further and say this is why people who are insulin sensitive could probably get away with some fruit versus people who are insulin resistant. They may have more issues with fruit, and that may be why we temporarily pull it out if the goal is weight loss. They can't deal with it. You made a good analogy. It's like that sponge is full. So if you throw in, a bunch of apples or oranges or mangoes or whatever, that glucose, there's no room. So it's just going to go straight into the fat and create more body fat and gain weight.
Yeah, and the more lipogenic enzymes are produced, a lot of times they can make you tired, right? Some people, the more carbohydrate that's produced, there's a propensity to burn that for fuel. So of course you move it and you burn it. Some people, the more carbohydrate that's produced, they actually get more tired. So there's actually less propensity to burn it, which means it gets stored as fat. So listen to your body. If you start increasing the carbs and you're not getting energy out of it and you're not feeling a propensity to move, be careful. Or you just make sure you have good exercise regimen in there. And of course, muscle mass, the more muscle mass you have, it's like upgrading your sponge size, right? So that's the benefit of resistance training is number one, you build a bigger sponge. And number two, you upregulate these little GLUT4 receptors, which are like little fingers on top of the cell that pull into that glucose. So it more efficiently pulls it out of the bloodstream. Yeah, that's like GLUT4, like Tim Ferriss in his book, The 4-Hour Workweek. He talks about doing like little air squats or like little mini push-ups before he has a carbohydrate-rich meal because he's trying to upregulate the GLUT4 receptor sites, doing some resistance movement before he consumes the carbohydrates.
Yeah, I don't do anything like that. I just would do leg day and then have sweet potatoes, and it felt so good together. Oh my God, having a sweet potato after leg day was like the best. We had a comment here too. The person put, the longer I've been on keto, if I'm getting, maybe they're saying intermittent fasting. I think that's what they're saying, keto IF. I'm getting more insulin sensitive. Noticed I'm getting more resilient to being knocked out of ketosis. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more ketogenic you become, because it's like you're starting a fire with logs on the fire, it's going to burn longer. Anyone that has to use kindling, you're there feeding that fire all day long. And that fire going up and down also means energy. It also means mood. It also means focus. It also means cognitive. That's why so many people are getting massive neurological benefits and cognitive benefits becoming fat burners. And a lot of people talk about being ketogenic. The problem is, what the hell does that mean? Number one, and a lot of people confuse it with ketoacidosis, which is a bad thing. So there's a lot of dogma with what does keto mean? But just in your brain, think fat burning. Who doesn't want to be burning fat for fuel, right?
Agreed. Well, let's wrap this thing up. We had one question here from Tim. Could eating chicken breast without skin, but keeping carbs under 20 grams, keep someone out of ketosis? It depends on your protein, right, Justin? Because if you go too high protein, can't that kick you out of ketosis, or am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, you can go into gluconeogenesis and make glucose out of protein. The thing is, though, I think a lot of people in the keto community miss this. Are you going to make more glucose from chicken breast, or are you going to get more glucose from eating like refined sugar?
So don't worry about it, basically?
No, I think you got to be careful of it. It just depends. Like, you're going to need more protein if you're more active. So if you're lifting more weights, for instance, you may need more protein. I just think go to a more full fat source versus a boneless, skinless chicken breast. Do a skin on at least, or at least move to a thigh. Yeah. Get some full fat in there. But again, I think in keto, if you're lifting more and you're doing more resistance training, you'll be able to get by with more protein and not have it affect you.
Agreed.
But the more sedentary you are, definitely got to lean more on the fat, higher fat percentages, and of course, full fat meats.
Yep. Well said. I had some chicken thighs last night. It was delicious. I put the real salt. They have a seasoned salt. Have you had that one?
I got it.
Oh, man, that's yummy. That plus coconut aminos. Summer, she loved it too, man. She ate so much of it. She ate almost as much as us. It's like, you're not even 2 years old. How do you eat this much? I can't believe it. She ate like 2 full thighs. It was unbelievable.
Love it, dude.
Well, let's wrap this up. I think I said everything I need to say and want to say on this topic.
What a great podcast, man. Hey, we'll chat real soon, Evan. You have a phenomenal day. Everyone, if you're subscribing, give us a thumbs up, hit the bell, and give us a share. Sharing is caring. We appreciate it.
Mention our links. So if you guys want to reach out, schedule a consult with Justin, you can do so at his site, justinhealth.com. And if you would like to reach out to me, same thing, evanbrand.com. And we look forward to helping you all out. Take care.
Take care, Evan.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.